Hi, I'm Brian Lord. I'm here with Dr. Sherri McClurg. She's the director of New Horizons for Children. She's working in Ukraine and going to tell us a little bit about what she's doing there, what she's seeing right now, and then some ways that you can help. So Dr. McClurg, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you.
Now, can you say where you are right now in Ukraine, or just give
So
people a general
yeah,
idea of where
so
you are?
right now I'm on the western side of Ukraine. We're in Lviv.
Hmm.
So both the Lviv city and Oblast, this is where we have our kind of our base of operations is here.
Okay, and how long have you been in Ukraine?
So this time our organization's been here since 2009. We've been working in orphanages to support the work in those facilities. When the war was, everybody was thinking it was imminent, we came over to actually help begin evacuations pre-war.
Hmm.
In the process of coming here and starting that, the war broke out. So we were here from, minus 3 days kind of thing. So
Wow.
we've been here since the beginning and we've just kind of watched it unfold.
What was that like? What were those first few days like?
To be honest, it was really scary. It was pretty intimidating. Um, just watching. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be over within a day or two. Maybe 2, 3 days tops. And then it just kind of kept going and going and going, and you didn't know at that point. You weren't sure what area was going to be hit next. Here in Lviv, the sirens were starting to get pretty consistent. Every few hours they'd be going off, especially at nighttime. It was so brutal.
Mm.
Um, just one after another, and you'd evacuate in the middle of the night. And that when a siren goes off, the apartment buildings here are multiple stories, so you'd be running down flights of stairs outside, a couple doors down to go into the bomb shelter, and then you'd stay on until it was all clear. Sometimes that was 20 minutes, sometimes that was 5, 6 hours.
Wow.
It was the first couple weeks I was back over in Poland for a while, and then I was in some other countries with the kids that evacuated. Then I came back,
Hmm.
and I was here probably, it was again in week 3. And it was still, refugees were just starting to come in from the east.
Hmm.
Um, but it was scary. I mean, I don't know how to describe. At one point, I remember walking along the sidewalk, and I said to the person who was walking with me, the shelling had started. So it had hit some of the airport and regions around, and we were looking at it. I'm like, and it really looks like what you see in a movie. I'm like, it looks just like a movie scene. And she looked at me and she's like, but this is the real thing. And it
Yeah.
just kind of hits you like, this is the real thing. When you see wounded people, it's not for television. It's real, and it's devastating. And our work is especially with the children. We're focused on the orphans, and so we're evacuating kids who are in areas that are being shelled and moving them here, to get them out of the danger zone in the east. In the beginning, we weren't sure, what was going to be hit. Right, we didn't know what part of Ukraine was trying to be taken over. Um, and I was here trying to help, but there's orphanages that we've partnered with, and then there's orphanages that are just here in Ukraine, right? And so my goal was to get those out that we know of that wanted our help, and we had done that. There were 2 that still wanted to remain because they felt they were in a pretty safe location, and it was still shelling every night. And there was one night in the bomb shelter, and I'd been going on days of adrenaline, days of fear. And that night, when the shelling was hitting the airport in Lviv, you could hear the explosions from the bomb shelter. And I wasn't sure if we were going to get out. It was scary. I've never been in that kind of situation where you just don't know if you're going to survive. Um, Texted my family, and I'm just like, listen, Lord, if we get out of here, I'm headed to the border. I'm done. I've gotten our groups out. I'm out of here unless you make it really clear that we need to stay. And the next day, after the sirens were all done and we got out of the bomb shelter, the government asked to speak with us, and they said, "What you've done for these kids, can you do it for the others?"
Mhm.
Um, so we just knew, it's like, okay, the Lord has said, I said, make it clear. It was pretty clear. We need your help. So we partnered with some rescue teams, and we've been moving any orphanage that's in the danger zone, in a hot zone or an approaching hot zone. So like we're watching, and when they get within 100 kilometers, we change it to what we consider this is a hot zone, and we need to get those kids out because we might not be able to 3 days from now. We've evacuated we have, let's see, I think we're up to about 36 specific orphanages or boarding schools that we've now moved over here. And we're in Lviv, where every once in a while there's some shelling, but it's always strategic. It's always at the military base. It's not the city. It's not civilian. And so Lviv has helped us find schools that were like a high school, that children aren't in school because of the war. And then they let us convert it, and we've made it into safe havens for children. So we've got 26 locations, and we've got just over 2,000 children that have come through.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and we're approaching, tomorrow's day 99. This war's been going on for almost 100 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
What reactions that you can share did you see from kids during that first? I mean, obviously you have different age ranges and everything else, but what are some of the reactions that stand out?
Some of the kids just are kind of going with the flow, moving through, but other kids, like we brought kids from Kharkiv and Sumy and the Donetsk region, and we had one group there, they were in a bomb shelter for days, and their caregivers were swapping out shifts. And one group of caregivers was coming from the village, and they were going to swap. The Russians stopped them and killed all the caregivers. And so those kids had been in a bomb shelter. Their caregivers had been shot. By the time they got to us, your heart just broke for these kids. I mean, they're already living in an orphanage, right? And now you've added to this the war, and then their caregivers are being shot and killed. It's like some of them have seen horrors you and I could never fathom. Yeah.
And what is that like now for a lot of these kids, almost 100 days in? And I know that these kids are spread out, some are in country, some are out of country. What does their day look like now?
So we have groups that are over in neighboring countries. And for them, it's just, it's getting long. Like the first, couple of weeks, it was just kind of like, it's not quite a summer camp experience because nobody was prepared for you to come, right? But they're in a safe place. There's no shelling. There's no sirens. We've been trying to take a lot of activities to those kids, balls and scooters and computers, so they could do online school. They weren't excited about that delivery for some reason, but the balls and the scooters and coloring books and clothes. None of these kids they evacuated with whatever they had on. If they didn't have shoes on, they came with no shoes. It's just, you pull them out of a bomb shelter and you bring them on a bus for however many hours, 12, 20, 50, some of them, to get them to where they're going. And then we've just been trying to meet what are the basic daily needs, making sure they have food, making sure they have clothes, making sure they have medicine. None of these kids come with their medicine, their medical records. So we're just kind of rebuilding everything from scratch. So the kids over in the other countries, they wake up and we've got them doing a school routine online. Ukraine went to online school. It's finishing up here this past week. Kids are doing exams now. Then they're playing and they're just, doing as best as they can. But over in the other countries, it's a little easier than here. But here, there's a little bit more structure and routine. And here, because we're here in Lviv, like today, this week we've been celebrating International Children's Day. And it's just a day in the country, June 1st, to celebrate children. So it's hard to celebrate 2,000 children all in the same day. So we split them up over days all week long. So and that's what's crazy here in Lviv. It's like during the daytime, the war doesn't exist. One day we were at the zoo, and today we were at a big festival. Tomorrow we're going to a sports park. But as soon as curfew hits, it's like, it's getting a little bit later now. It's between 9 and 11. The streets clear. Everybody's in their apartments. And you just kind of wait to see if the sirens are going to go off. But they tend to only go off at nighttime. So daytime life is normal. And then you have this interrupted sleep all night long when sirens are going off. It's crazy.
Wow. What's the most pressing need right now for you and what you're doing?
So the most pressing need is really financial resources. Western Ukraine is still functioning, and we can buy everything. The retailers here are just so appreciative that we're here and we're helping. They're giving us everything at wholesale cost. So we're
Wow.
buying the kids' clothes. We're buying Nike shorts for $6 a pair, right? So a lot of people back home are like, well, we'll box things up and ship it to you. I'm like, the amount you pay for shipping, I can buy 40 pairs of shoes over here. So
Yeah.
really the most useful resource is finances, because then we can buy laptops, we can buy whatever we need for the kids over here. Um, but aside from that, first and foremost is really prayer, right?
Yeah.
We need God in the midst of all this. It is these kids, we've got them to a safe place, but they still physically, but emotionally, spiritually, there is so much that still needs to be done. And with a war still going back, still going on in the East, and their friends, their extended families are all still back there. These kids are still living with a lot of that fear. And so we're just, we're trying to just help calm hearts down and just help them, just get to a place where they can sleep at night without nightmares. So prayers for the physical, the emotional, the spiritual well-being of these kids. We're talking years and years of work that we're gonna get to see God do in these kids' lives. But that first and foremost, prayer.
And how can people pray for you and the other people caring for the kids?
Um, Probably stamina. It's like we were shopping today, and I'm like, it's one thing to shop for a large family. It's another thing to shop for 300 children each morning, and then start making deliveries. I'm just like, wow. I'll be happy to never shop again a day in my life. Um, but it's fuel is getting hard, so there's still fuel, but we're getting up to it's getting closer to $2 per liter.
Hmm.
And they limit you can only get 20 liters, but some
Mm.
of the locations that we've brought children to are 3 hours south, and so by the time you get down there and get back, so just it's really prayer for protection. It's
Hmm.
prayer for us being able to do what God wants us to do today.
Hmm.
And we plan very loosely, because we don't know what's going to be available tomorrow. We don't know. We had a group that was supposed to come in, and then they couldn't, and another group came from a different direction, and you hold very, very loosely, and you just start each day saying, okay, Lord, what do you have for us to do today? And so for me specifically, I just would appreciate prayers for clarity. What does God want me to do as I lead this team?
Hmm.
We're trying to make sure we take care of our team's own physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I'm just, Lord, help me to know how to lead these people the way you want them led. And what do we need to do for the kids today? Um, that's how each day goes for us.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Thank you for doing what you're doing to help these kids. For a lot of us, it feels like it's the other side of the world, but it's a lot of people like you are so close, and those kids and the people around them have so much need right now. So thank you for doing what you're doing, for them.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So for those watching or listening, if you want to help Dr. McClurg and the children that she's serving and her team is serving, you can go to conduitchurch.org and click donate in Ukraine. And I know that our church, Conduit Church, has been helping them quite a bit, and the people around here. So thank you for those people who donated, and for those who are going to donate. And Dr. McClurg, thank you again so much for taking the
Thanks.
time to share all this.
Thank you so much.